All right, what is up, guys? My name is BassWiz, and today we are going to be talking about the Promised Neverland Manga chapter 147. It should go without saying that there will be spoilers for the Promised Neverland after this point in the video. So if you are not caught up with the Promised Neverland, I suggest stopping before we go on. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this chapter actually consisted mostly of a flashback concerning Lord Geelan and how he was 700 years ago. We actually got to learn the circumstances behind his betrayal and why it was that he was banished from the capital, from his high position as one of the leaders of the 5 regent homes. We get a clear glimpse finally of Lord Geelan's appearance before he was deprived of high quality food. He actually had a honestly sort of regal, should I say even angelic appearance, with the long braided hair and the very slim feature with the strong jawline. He looked very handsome, I should say, and as we saw in this chapter, was actually a very kind-hearted man. We started this chapter with him having an open dialogue with Queen Regulavalima and the other leaders of the 5 regent houses. We actually see the previous Lord Bayon, who we know now is deceased, and the older Lord Gnome. So the Lord Gnome that we have now is a younger girl. This was an older person. Lord Geelan was talking about how the poorer demons, the everyday citizen, is going through a really hard time at the moment. There is a lack of food and too many mouths to feed, and he is concerned about the possibility of the poorer demons reverting back into monsters and attacking their own families, their own children, and he's worried of a giant upheaval if this happens. So he suggests sharing the royalties' share of food to help appease this situation and to help everyone out. Because if a country does not care for its people, it is not a true country. Now, this is a very admirable thing for Lord Geelan to be suggesting, but the other demons have other ideas. Lord Gnome suggesting that it's a dangerous idea because the food that the royalty and the lower class commoners eat are on different levels, and Lord Pupo is concerned about losing his share because he has to share it with the commoners. The older Lord Bayon seems to be flexible with the idea. He's not really too for or against it, but he does seem kind of hesitant about the whole thing. The person who finally gets Lord Geelan to abandon the idea, well, not abandon it, but just not be able to argue anymore, is Duke Everk. He starts talking to him. He starts saying stuff like, I understand what you're saying, but everyone's concerns here are justified. He says that the problem is that the farms are currently not being maintained well enough. And apparently at that point they had just joined hands with humans. So the mass production of lower grade meat is barely starting production. We've seen earlier in the series that human are truly cattle, that Gracefield House is an exception to the norm because in other places of the world, humans are legitimately treated like cattle. They are fed by tubes. They cannot walk. They do not have autonomy. They are just fed with tubes. They don't move. They sit in their own bile. And that is what most demon commoners eat. They eat this low grade meat, not the high grade stuff like Emma, Ray, and Norman and all the kids in the Gracefield house. So Duke Everk is suggesting, let's just wait it out. Let's see how these low grade farms work first before we get too hasty with dividing our rations to these commoners. And then he adjourns the meeting. Now, Lord Geelan is not too happy about this. He is lamenting the fact that Nobody's wanting to listen to him. It's not that they don't understand the crisis that they are in, it's that they don't want to acknowledge it, because all they care about is their profit, their meat, their bottom line, while everybody else is suffering. And then along comes General Doza, who is a vassal to the Geelan clan. We have seen General Doza before. At the present moment, he is one of the 5 regent houses, and it turns out that he actually ended up replacing the Geelan house in the 5 regent houses. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Here we see Doza sucking up to Lord Geelan. He is saying stuff like, "There is no ruler so loved by citizens and vassals alike. For your territory to be the one most affected by this, it's unheard of." And Lord Geelan agrees, and he's sad that he can't do anything to save it. And that's when Geelan gets an idea. He gives Doza a mission because he heard a rumor from one of the merchants in his territory. It's not outwardly stated, but we do see a panel of what appears to be Musica and her Blood Maiden clan. So I'm assuming what Geelan's plan is to find out if the Blood Maiden still lives and to see if her powers can help the commoners. So Lord Geelan in many ways shares the same ideology as Emma does. He wanted to use the power of the Blood Maiden to save the commoners from their fate of degenerating anytime they don't have food for longer than 6 months. He wanted to make it so that people didn't have to devolve because they didn't have a meal. But what Doza does instead is reports Geelan to Duke Iverk, and he starts spouting lies about Lord Geelan being a betrayer. And Doza just takes this opportunity to just throw Geelan under the bus and take the spot of one of the heads of the 5 regent houses for himself. We see after that where Lord Geelan is actually in prison, and he's talking to Duke Iverk, and he's talking about how he's innocent. And Iverk only has to say he knew that. He knows that Lord Geelan is not plotting treason. He knows Lord Geelan is loyal, and that everything Doza told Iverk was a lie. But he threw him in jail anyway. And when questioned why, Duke Iverk just told Geelan that he is a nuisance, that his kindness isn't welcome in royalty, essentially. We get a little flashback of what Queen Reglavalima told Iverk, and she said that there are just way too many people. If we let some people die, then everybody can have enough human meat. Queen Reglavalima and the other heads of the 5 regent houses are either maliciously or apathetically denying the needs of the people through their inaction, letting thousands of people die of starvation because they don't want to sacrifice their way of life, and they don't want to inconvenience themselves with the lives of the people. So instead of making more food that people can eat, they're just wanting less people so that the same amount of food can feed them. Duke Iverk just tells Geelan that his cleanliness and his good nature is an eyesore, and that is why Lord Geelan was banished for over 700 years. Cut back to the present, the new Lord Bayon and the new Lord Gnome charge toward Lord Geelan. And Lord Geelan, with a swift motion, and I had to look at this a few times because the art style is kind of scratchy, he beheaded both the new Lord Bayon and the new Lord Gnome, and he ate both of their heads in a really grotesque display of both dominance and just irreverence for both of these people. He says that if you want to resent anybody, you should resent your own parents, meaning the inaction of both the past Lord Gnome and Lord Bayon, and that is the reason he had to kill them. Lord Doza is there watching this happen, and before he can even react, he gets beheaded by one of Geelan's men. So with that, the only two people of royalty left are Duke Iverk and Queen Regulavalima. So all in all, I'm really surprised by how quickly the members of the 5 region homes are falling. It almost seems way too easy. But if you want my honest opinion, Duke Iverk has sort of been like the second in command to Queen Regulavalima this whole time. So I'm assuming that he is not going to fall so easily. And also, we didn't see her, at least in the present tense in this chapter, but Queen Regulavalima seems still as calm as ever as this is going on. So I really want to know what she has in store for not only Lord Geelan, but Norman. I'm sure she knows something is up. I'm sure she knows that Lord Geelan is not the sole perpetrator in this situation. So I don't know. I know it's not going to be as easy as it seems at the moment. Let me know what you guys think about this chapter and what Norman is going to have to do to get past Queen Regulavalima, because I know it is not going to be that easy. Drop a like if you like what I have to say. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My links are up there in the corner. Let me know what you thought of this new format. Let me know what you think of this new little mascot character. Let me know if you get the visual pun I am making with him. And that will be it for me today. See ya.